Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello and welcome back to Game Over Calgary. I'm your host, Conrad Krausert, and the Calgary Flames, for the first time this season, end a game against the Anaheim Ducks in regulation. Of course, picking up the win, as I apparently watched this with a white shirt and didn't notice until just now. That's what your pre-screen's for, Conrad, noticing these things. But the Flames pick up the win, and they continue to win when they score more than 5 goals. This, of course, being their 54th straight when they score 4 or more. And before we go any further, we are going to also make some time to congratulate the city of Taber on winning Kraft Hockeyville. For those of you who are not aware, Taber, Alberta had a catastrophic explosion in their main hockey rink in the town. Of course, that's not ever good when you hear catastrophic explosion. Less of all when it is something as important to a lot of rural Alberta communities like hockey rinks are. Because as much as they are places for hockey, obviously, there's so much more. I know Anand does lacrosse, and that's growing in popularity, especially box lacrosse in Alberta is massive. And then you also have to remember, it is a community gathering place. So losing that arena meant so much. And of course, Kraft Hockeyville will not completely alleviate that issue. But it does add a significant amount of funds, a significant amount of exposure. And hey, as much as I don't want to give certain parts of our government much credit, look at the flags around me, I generally don't want to give a certain party much credit. But as soon as a spotlight is put on things in this province, the province seems to step up and eventually do the right thing and put some dollars towards it. So hopefully this, emphasis that's brought by Kraft Hockeyville, and hey, playing a preseason game in Taber in a brand new arena sounds pretty darn fun, even if it is only the 13 youngest prospects in each team system. It's still having professional hockey players come to your arena. So huge shout out to Taber, Alberta. Congratulations for winning Kraft Hockeyville. It is so important to that community. And I just can't say enough about what Kraft Hockeyville is going to do for that project. Now back to your Calgary Flames as they pick up the victory in a 5-3 fashion. Probably the closest that we've heard one of these Flames 4+ goal games going, as they nearly managed to throw it away. But hey, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, and hockey is neither of those. So the Flames come away with the victory. Of course, we'll start with our game review throughout this first period. Then we'll go into our second period, where we're going to talk about a young man who had maybe his best game as a Flame today. And then we'll probably look on to a little bit of a prospect report or something like that. Talk about what we've got our poll in the chat. Which future Flame are you the most excited for? We'll talk about stuff like that. So let's head on into this review. Hey, at least we weren't the 6-7 game that we saw the Toronto Maple Leafs lose in overtime. I had to make that joke. I'm sorry. Contractual obligations. But this game didn't start the greatest for the Flames. Because anytime Beckett Seneca gets on the score sheet, my brain just has us going, oh no, it's going to happen again. Especially when it's as beautiful as that goal was. Gets the pass from Lacombe, splits the Flames defenders of Hunter Brustevich and Oli Mata. Doesn't give up after the first attempt gets stopped. Keeps it on it, and I correct myself, it wasn't Mata and Brustevich. Brustevich was the third defender. It was Mata and Pospisil. And I just had this impending doom feeling come on. Because it seems that whenever one of these Ducks young guns gets going, it spells that the Flames are going to lose. Of course, I'm only talking about this season, because all of these games, the Flames are 0-3 coming into this one. So I just had this impending doom, like, oh no, we're going to go overtime, we're going to lose. And you guys all know I'm fully on Team Tank, but I still think of the Ducks as a lesser team who's taken advantage of a very, very weak Pacific Division to get to this point. But my doom and gloom was for naught as the Calgary Flames come back before the end of the first to answer a great shot block by the big man Kevin Ball, and then, Matt Bay-Gridden. What can't you say about this 20-year-old Russian that hasn't already been said? But boy, oh boy, has his coming out party begun for the Calgary Flames with a beautiful stretch pass. Joel Farabee makes no mistake on the backhand. And the Calgary Flames come out of the first tied 1-1. Of course, you have to think Ville Husso probably wants that one back. Detroit Red Wings legend Ville Husso. But Flames will take it. Flames only managed 6 shots throughout the period number 1. Anaheim fired 16 on the man who seems to play like he is going to win the Vezina every time the Flames throw him out. Of course, he's had a few stinkers in there as well, but Devin Cooley playing like one of the best goalies in saves above expected, which he is this year. Let's go into the second period, and Mr. 500, of course, his 500th point comes as a goal against his former team. Olofsson and Pospisil gets the assist, but it just kind of rolls through the would-be Anaheim defense right onto the stick of Ryan Strome. His 8th goal of the season, scoring at a ridiculous pace since joining the Flames. And that has to feel good, scoring in front of his wife and his kids who still live down in Anaheim. Haven't made the conversion up to Calgary yet. Of course, you have to think they will, knowing that there's 2 years left on Ryan Strome's contract. But good for Ryan Strome, gets his 500th point, does against his former team. That's got to feel good. Marty Party gets his 2nd assist of the year, and Victor Olofsson continues his hot start to his Calgary Flames shortened tenure. Of course, don't think anyone's really expecting him to return next year, but hey, stranger things have happened. And then the young phenom who I quoting myself on Twitter and talking about Beckett Seneca. If only acquiring a player like that wasn't just fantasy, of course, calling back to a certain member of the Calgary Flames front office. But it really doesn't have that comparison. Or the Flames don't have someone that's at that level. But I think the closest we have is Matt Bay-Gridden. Gridden, of course, gets his first goal of the game. Assist to Joel Farabee, returning the favor after the great pass. And great work along the half boards. Because this is something that I think has really gone underappreciated by a lot of Flames fans, is how much work Matt Bay-Gridden is putting into becoming a two-way player. Not just a goal scorer. Forces a turnover on the half boards, and then gets up the ice, puts his stick on the ice, presents as an option. Great pass from Farabee. And of course, the Flames are up 3-1. But it wouldn't end there. Many times I've asked myself through this season, will the Flames have a 20-goal scorer? Of course, I thought at the beginning of the year, probably the only 2 names that you would have thought of for this one were going to be Nazem Kadri and potentially a guy like Blake Holman. But of course, Morgan Frost, the first guy to make it there. And speaking of guys who have had a resurgence since joining the Flames, Oli Mata picks up the assist on this one in a game that I actually thought was one of his weaker games of the season, but hits Morgan Frost just as he gets off the bench. It trickles through Ville Husso, and the Flames take a 4-1 lead. We all know that 4-goal barrier, once the Flames hit it, they don't lose. So this is when I started feeling, okay, I can sort of calm down, not watch the game as closely. But then the Flames take their foot off the gas a little bit too much. And of course, I actually think they get caught pinching up the ice a little too much as Michael Backlund tries a drop pass to Matt Coronado. ends up taking an awkward bounce off Kevin Ball, tucked home by Leo Carlsson, unassisted, 4-2. Of course, this isn't when the panic bells start to arise. But after the Mason McTavish goal on the power play, it was like warning sirens going off, because I didn't think the Flames looked overly good on this penalty kill. Of course, Blake Coleman in the box, one of your top penalty killers, doesn't help. But Kevin Ball does not step out enough on Mason McTavish. And that's a guy who has 15 goals this year, has a pedigree. I also don't love how the box system works out for the Flames in this scenario. And I also think it probably should have been not Ball stepping out, but instead it should have been Joel Farabee. But of course, Joel Farabee isn't usually in that role. He's a secondary penalty killer. He's someone you bring in when one of your primary penalty killers is in the penalty box, as it was here. McTavish scores. All hands on deck. Of course, then you see the goalie pulled. Morgan Frost gets the goal. And honestly, just a hard work play by Morgan Frost. Of course, he gets it on the backhand after it bumps over to Matt Coronado. But it was Morgan Frost hustling down that ice, not allowing the Ducks to get comfortable and just reset possession. He was on Leo Carlsson to separate man from puck and then gets rewarded once again. So, that's where we stand. Morgan Frost gets his 20th and 21st. Assist to Coronado and Ball on the empty netter. The Flames hold on and get their lone win against the Ducks on the season. However, they do manage to come away with 5 points because overtime and shootout. So 5 points out of a possible 8. If this team wasn't on the tank to success program, you'd say that's a pretty solid get. Hey, that's 2 wins and a draw if the world was normal. Or 2 wins and you get what I mean. But for that to be your season series against a team that, by all leaps and bounds, is going to be challenging for that top overall spot in the Pacific, it's not your Super Bowl, but hey, it's a pretty interesting thing to have, especially when you only manage to win one of the games. Let's on to period number 2, where we're going to talk about this might have been the coming out game for Matt Vaygridden. The 20-year-old Russian prospect, of course, only playing less than half the season with the Flames. In fact, that was his 31st game played today. 15 points on the year for a player that's only played 31 games. Now, it might not necessarily be a fair comparison, but when you only have 2 rookies that have played as much of the season with the Flames, you have to compare that to Zane Parekh. Hey, I get it. Not completely apples to apples. Probably apples to like those Asian pears that you can get that come in the bubble wrap when you go to Safeway. But hey, they are the 2 rookies. Both have played around 30 games. Zane Parekh playing game 30. Matt Vaygridden playing in game 31. Of course, completely different reasons on why they both haven't been playing. And different roles, of course. But when you're comparing the two, just these are our 2 rookies. Of course, we're going to put, forget about Hunter Brustevich, who is also kind of in that mixing pot, and Yan Kuznetsov as well. But these are the 2 high, I don't want to call them high value because all prospects have intrinsic value, but the 2 big names that Calgary Flames fandom was looking at. And I'd have to say, based on results, being a half a point a game player in your rookie season, I saw that there was only 4 guys in Flames history that have done that, and one of their names was Jerome McGinley. Credit to whoever I saw that from. I believe it was Ryan Pike on Twitter. But boy howdy, this is really a great stretch for Matt Vay, and of course, according to Ryan Pike, it was rookie Matt Vaygridden's 10th point in 14 games since being recalled from the Wranglers on March 8th. So has really been pumping the points in after this trade deadline when he's been given opportunity. And as I said on his goal, like, it was not what you would have thought of Matt Vigridden coming into this season. He's the one that forces a turnover along the boards, along with Hunter Brustevich, then makes himself available, doesn't give up, works two ways. Really, really great performance from Matt Vigridden today. And I don't think this is the cap. I don't think this is the ceiling. Let me double check if I'm getting that stat correct. I can't find it again here, so it might not have been Ryan Pike. But anyways, as Little Lucy Burt asks here, when was the last time we had a rookie that has performed as well as Gridden has? Maybe rookie Johnny Hockey. That's probably the name that I can think of. Another name that had a really good rookie year that didn't go on to be Johnny Hockey, in my estimation, well, in anyone's estimation, was does anyone remember rookie season Sven Berchi? The Swiss sensation? I think that's the only other guy I can think of that had this hot of a rookie year. Maybe you could put Connor Zaria on that list with his rookie year. But yeah, it's been a long time since the Flames have had someone that is this prolific of a scorer this young in their career. The fact that he's just turned 20 this year. And let's be real, probably has some of the same pressures that Zane Parekh has felt. I'll give Gridden a little bit of a benefit of the doubt because I do believe he played games in the KHL. Let me grab... because he's not listed as a prospect anymore according to Elite Prospect, which doesn't make sense. Because if he played, I think he played a year in the No, came over to USSHL. So throw out everything I've just said. First year playing really against men. Of course, playing part of that with the Wranglers, part of that with the Flames. So has to build the same body mass. Of course, not as physical as a position as a defender like Zane. And this isn't a shot at Zane Parekh and what he's done this year. And how he's been managed by the Calgary Flames this year. Which I think is partial mismanagement, but neither here nor there. Really have to give this man his flowers. Especially with the fact that he's been up and down. And that's got to be hard mentally. I'm 33, and if I think I got a pip at work, I would be losing my mind, let alone with being sent to the Wranglers and then back to the Flames. But as I said, this is probably the best we've seen out of Matt Vigridden, and I think the best is still yet to come. Of course, Zane Parekh also thought was fine in this game. I actually didn't think he was the best of the rookie defensemen. I thought Hunter Brustevich had himself a hell of a game today. So the future, just like the old Telos model, or motto, the future is friendly for these Calgary Flames. And we'll head into period number 3, talking about what the future is for these Flames. Because as we all know, the Calgary Wranglers not in the playoffs. So that allows us to look to the NCAA route, to guys that are taking a little bit longer and maybe on a little bit of a different path. And hey, because we have to remember, the Flames are not done with a rebuild. But before I get into that, I do just want to shout out everyone who is in chat today. Mr. Watts, you've been here since before we went live. Cat Camp, thank you. New watcher. Great game for Stroman. We'll talk about that later. I will read their comment later. Anand chilling out in chat. Denim Man, Lil Uzi Burt, who we've talked about. But before we go any further, make sure to go hit that like, go hit that, go hit the bell to be notified when we go live. Go hit subscribe, go hit that share. Help us expand Game Over Calgary. Because, hey, there's a long off season. We'll be here to bring you through it all. Because, hey, we've been here for this Calgary Flames season this far. Why would we stop now? But that'll get me talking, because I think a lot of people are focusing on the NCAA and focusing on a lot of other guys. But we may have a battle of Calgary Flames prospects in the WHL that you can go watch at the Saddle Dome if you're into playoff hockey. And hey, the Calgary Hitmen have been giving you quite a bit of hockey. They played, in fact, extra time in in 2 out of the 4 games they played, sweeping, of course, their first round. Of course, I'm talking about Hunter Lang of the Calgary Hitmen. We can't actually tell you who will be facing off in the WHL, as rounds have not finished yet. But of course, we also have to talk about Hunter Lang, who has propelled the Medicine Hat Tigers forward. Or Andrew Basha, not Hunter Lang. I meant to put Andrew Basha in the poll too. That's where my brain is. Andrew Basha. My brain's tired. I've had a week, folks. But Andrew Basha, he had, by my count, at least 2 points in the game here. Axel Herdig. I'm just mixing up names today. Too much going on in my brain, and to give you guys a little bit of a behind the curtain, you can't see this. It's actually, I just had a growth removed that could potentially be skin cancer, and as I've talked about, that's what my mom's battling. So I've had a bit of a week. So thank you for joining me here in chat. But anyways, that's why I'm not remembering names. Anyways, Axel Herdig, of course, just signed his futures deal with the Flames. But Andrew Basha, who started the year with the Wranglers and eventually does get sent back down to be one of the overagers and play, with the Ruck twins, who could really potentially be future Flames. And another guy that you questioned in chat, Mr. Watts, apparently was at the game today, got in late. So it sounds like Aydar Suniev will be joining in Dallas if he gets to play. Because we've seen numerous times throughout the season, less so in the last quarter of the season, this reluctance to play some of these young guys. But I think especially we saw Connor Zary be a little bit dinged up today. Blocked a shot, did return to play. I wonder if you're looking at this Flames roster, if you're like, hey, Zar, if you aren't 100%, let's throw Suniev in. It'll obviously make us shuffle some things around. But yeah, Aydar Suniev is someone that has been, I wouldn't say spoken of as highly as a Matt Coronado, but has a similar shoot first mentality. And when you've had teams that struggle to score goals like the Calgary Flames have this season, I think giving Aydar Suniev another couple of kicks at the can to continue his progression is not the worst thing you can do for this Calgary Flames squad. Are you wanting to have those minutes taken away at the expense of guys like Matt Gridden? Probably not. If you really want to potentially recognize that, hey, there's a lot of dominoes that need to fall the Flames' way for us to even have the potential for Murray Edwards' dream scenario of 2 home playoff games. And we just need to start playing the kids to figure out what we are going to be in the 26-27 season, regardless of how the lottery balls fall. I think you need to start doing that. Whether that's getting Aydar Suniev back in the lineup against Dallas, or whether you send him in against the absolute demons that are the Colorado Avalanche. We'll have to see. Shout out to Al Grandeau and KQ jumping into chat. KQ obviously with the Oilers suck chant in the chat. And Little Lucy Burt saying in chat, what about Suniev in for Pospisil? Unfortunately, Martin Pospisil is a center on this team right now. Actually, where did he line up today? I think that might be the maybe where you go, because yeah, he was actually on the wing of Ryan Strome and Victor Olofsson. So maybe that is where you see him slot in. Or hey, maybe you realize that Blake Coleman is not going to play for the rest of the season. We'll have to see. But of course, the other option is if I don't know if Craig Conroy's had conversations with the Olofsson camp about returning the next year. But maybe you realize, hey, we don't actually need to run his shot out. I don't know. We don't know what this Chat GPT run roster will look like. But of course, Aydar Suniev, you have to think he'll either get in that game against Dallas or against the Avalanche, neither of which are softballs. But who knows? This Calgary Flame just beat a team that is tied for first place in the Pacific Division. Of course, this quote-unquote pillow fight, according to Connor McDavid. We'll have to see. It's an interesting way for this tank to go. Obviously, I took the smoke off of our tank, so maybe I don't feel it's broken as much as it once was. But hey, let's remind ourselves that the Flames didn't actually fall at all by winning this game. They still remain in 30th place because Chicago won, who was in 31st place, and the Rangers, who is in 29th place, also won. See, we're getting some of the Al Grando chat going on. But with that, we'll head on into overtime, where we continue to look through your questions, your comments, your concerns. Of course, we opened up today talking about congratulations to the town of Tabor. We'll grab some Tabor corn over the summer. Hey, maybe some of those proceeds. We'll get back into building new arena. Cap Camp saying, great game for both Strome and Frost. Sus for the tank, but great for team morale. As I said, I don't think they were the best Flames on the ice tonight. I think that belongs solely on the stick of the youngster Matvei Gridin. Who did the NHL select as the 3 stars for this game? Leo Carson, Joel Farabee, and Devin Cooley. Sure. Let's figure that one out. You have a kid that's 20 years old and has 3 points, or is +3 with 2 points on the night. Oh, only ended +2. Dagger. Doesn't make sense to me. Question from Anand. How do I want to see how Aydar Suniev will use moving forward. We talked about that in the third period. Penalty kill hasn't looked great as of late. Yeah, I will certainly agree with that. The Flames managing to only go 66.6%, allowing the goal on 1 of 3. And the power play did not look great in their one opportunity. It was one of the keys to the game, according to Sportsnet, avoiding those minor penalties, and the Flames took 3 of them. And I believe at least 2 of them were strict infractions that I didn't love. Yeah, that Zach Whitecloud slash. And both the penalties in third, the hold and the hook. Just a little bit of potentially poorly timed penalties. And of course, the Blake Coleman one ends up being scored on. Unrelated note, unfair that Edmonton got to see the Rasmus Anderson stare and not us. Hey, I'll take the Oilers losing most days of the week. And as Anand said as well, the Flames could have gotten officially eliminated tonight, and they staved that off for another day. Beceptu didn't lose against the Ducks. Yep. And yeah, in case you're just chilling in chat and you aren't paying attention to what's going on around the NHL, there was a baby born at Rogers Place apparently today. And I saw a good comment in another chat room that I'm at. If they don't name him some combination of Connor Draisaitl name, they're doing it wrong. And I kind of agree with that. Big shout out to Anand. He didn't have Mount Royal things. He did 5 games of play-by-play for a play a hockey tournament today. So shout out to that. Asking how I am. As I said, I've been better. When you don't have a hole in your neck because your doctor thinks you could have cancer, things could be better. So I'm trying to distract myself from that. Axel Herdig. Why did we sign Axel Herdig was the question from Mr. Watts. I don't actually have the answer to that question. Obviously Craig Conroy wanted to get it done and felt that, hey, if the Hitman fell out, maybe you want to have him for this last stretch of the AHL period. Let's go on down. Talking about how if we do play Suniev, we can't have him on the 4th line. Needs to be up the lineup. I'm 100% in agreement there. Not going to confirm who's the real Agrando. That is not my place to be. Agrando with a lot of Oilers propaganda. Ken Ellis is back with a vengeance. My brother from another mother, KQ. Yeah, shout out to KQ joining in the chat. How much do you think Chicago winning today affects our tank? The fact that the Flames in Chicago seem to only win when each other wins is kind of an interesting prospect. It's an interesting kind of duality that I would say to these two teams. And this isn't where I saw Chicago being. I thought at the start of the year they were much better than their placements have appeared recently. What do you think about Strome taking Prek under his wing? I actually think it's been Strome helping him understanding what being a pro is. I wouldn't necessarily believe that his play is necessarily being as influenced by Strome. I really think bringing in a guy like Oli Mata and Zach Whitecloud have probably helped Parekh advance. And I've really actually liked the pairing of Parekh and Solovyov. Or not Ilya Solovyov, my beloved. You're not on this Calgary Flames team anymore. Of course, I'm meaning Yan Kuznetsov. But anyways, continuing on. Both Ksenia and Herdig start next season. Yes. Flames still have 2 open spots left to sign any ELCs or contracts. You have to believe those are probably for both the guys that are mentioned in the poll, Ethan Wittenbach and Cole or Wittenbach. I always think Bach because the musician, but and also Cole Reshney, the other name that I think will have to be in that mix. And I just ended the poll because, hey, you know what? But I think I'll answer a couple more questions. Should we hire Gardner McDougall as the next head coach? I do not think Gardner McDougall is ready to make the jump back to pro. I could potentially see him being as part of the staff for the Calgary Flames. I don't foresee him being the head coach. I think Weeb is going to sign a futures deal. That's the what I'm feeling out right now. I think he was going to sign a current deal. I don't think you would have seen the Herdig futures. My name has always been, I guess I've been pretty coy about that on this show, just to encourage people to go do their research. I think Alex Tanguay is the next head coach of the Calgary Flames. I think Craig Conroy and him have had conversations in the past. I can't say that for sure. But I think that having Conroy as your general manager, Jerome McGinley doing whatever he does in the front office, special assistant. But I really do think that Alex Tanguay will be your next head coach of the Calgary Flames if it happens this offseason. Do I think it necessarily needs to happen this offseason if the Calgary Flames think they haven't given enough runway to Ryan Huska? I think it's done. I think it's time to bring another voice in the room to do this next elevation. But I still think it's Alex Tanguay who is the next head coach of the Calgary Flames. Do you think the Wranglers should sign Matthew Phillips? No, I don't think a homecoming is what's best for the Flames or for Matthew Phillips. I think he's going to bounce around the AHL for a little bit here. Unfortunately, I think his days have been limited. And I'm going to answer this last question here out of the Flames. And Ken, note the Flames do have 2. They only have 48 signed currently. But do you think the goalie from Russia will come and play in the AHL next year? If he gets a full-time deal with CSKA Moscow, I don't think we see him in North America for a long time. If he was going to get out of Russia, I think you would have seen him do it this year and either go play in the USHL or a similar league. So it's kind of a wait and see situation in that regard. So that's kind of where we have to see how things go with Igor Yegorov. And I still think that we need to remember that Owen Say is still, I know he's without contract and got hurt. I still think another year of Owen Say is for the best for the Calgary Flames. I think Ivan Prosvetov is going to shoot himself back to Russia after this season with the Wranglers. That's just my 2 thoughts. However, I think that's it for me today. Thank you for everyone who has come over into the chat. I know a lot of you guys are over from that Farm Flamers area. Thank you so much for coming on over to Game Over Calgary today. But for myself, for Anand Unnithan, who's been around chat today, Anand, I hope you can rest your voice. But hey, for any Flames fan that's in chat, remember, we used to not win in Anaheim. So celebrate our win. Continue along with our tank. We'll probably lose in Dallas. And we'll probably lose in Anaheim. Now, it will be Anand back on Tuesday when the Flames take on the Stars. Then it looks like it will be both of us coming in for when the Flames head back to the Avalanche. Then after that, next Saturday, the 11 o'clock or the 11th game on the 11th, 5 o'clock puck drop, it will be the return for the old school Game Over Calgary fans. Audie James will return to Game Over Calgary. But for myself and everyone across the Game Over Network, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We'll be back again on Tuesday when the Flames take on the Stars.